We're coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios. This is Prime News on SABC 3. Let's give you a sense of the top stories this evening.
The strengthening occurred in the second quarter compared to the first quarter's 0.1% outcome. We do not believe that the GDP data is strong enough to cause any concern to the South African Reserve Bank from an inflation perspective.
Mining and manufacturing have kept the lights on for the South African economy as the GDP recorded a 0.8 increase in the second quarter.
We encourage our companies to use this as an opportunity to start seeking out other markets.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa will not impose retaliatory trade tariffs on the United States.
Well, I've maintained that I was right on behalf of South African Police Service and the people of South Africa.
And the full bench of the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria has dismissed the urgent application by Deputy National Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya to review and set aside the decision to place him on leave of absence. It has just gone 8 o'clock Central African time. Hello and a warm welcome to Prime News on 3. I am Paulette Nell. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let's get into it. We begin with this tonight. The mining and manufacturing sectors have boosted economic growth in the second quarter of this year, but fixed investments remain worryingly depressed. Latest data from Stats SA show that gross domestic product increased by 0.8%, the strongest quarterly growth since the second quarter of 2023. This follows a revised increase of 0.1% in the first quarter.
8 out of 10 industries registered growth. Manufacturing, mining, trade sectors were the primary positive contributors to the growth on the production side of the economy. They were followed by the agriculture, forestry and fishing sector, which saw a 2.5% rise during the period, mainly as a result of stronger activity in both horticulture and animal products. On the expenditure front, stronger household consumption and softer imports contributed to positive momentum. Experts say with inflation contained and weak growth, the Reserve Bank may have room to consider rate cuts in the coming months.
The 0.8% lift, however, is still 1% below 1%, and of course below the 3% as well needed to create jobs in South Africa. The strengthening occurred in the second quarter compared to the first quarter's 0.1% outcome. We do not believe that the GDP data is strong enough to cause any concern to the South African Reserve Bank from an inflation perspective. We continue to expect another interest rate cut this year of 25 basis points.
However, gross fixed capital formation decreased for a third consecutive quarter and net exports had a negative impact on the total GDP. Fixed investment declined by 1.4%, while exports and imports dropped by 3.1% and 2.1% respectively.
Indeed, one of the things that you can readily see if you move around in the country, whether you're driving between Pretoria, Joburg, you go through Cape Town, Durban, or in the entire eThekwini municipality, you don't see as much cranes in the construction as you would see in other countries.
Chief economist at Citadel, Martin Ackerman, says the second quarter GDP numbers signal cautious optimism and have shown that the economy can deliver short-term recoveries even against a difficult global backdrop. He cautions, though, that lasting growth requires unlocking fixed investment, addressing structural barriers, and ensuring reforms translate into tangible economic activity. Diabosito, SABC News, Johannesburg.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa will not impose retaliatory trade tariffs on the United States. This after the U.S. imposed 30% tariffs on South African products. Ramaphosa was answering questions in the National Assembly.
The president says several meetings are scheduled for Washington and New York in the coming days. He says South Africa will continue negotiating with the U.S. for better trade tariffs.
And in a way, it is double-pronged We negotiate with the United States, but at the same time, we encourage our companies to use this as an opportunity to start seeking out other markets.
But he was cornered by the EFF.
Instead of appeasing the maniac, why have we not stood firm and imposed own retaliatory tariffs against Trump while looking to open up trade with our BRICS partners?
The 600 US companies that are doing business in South Africa employ many people, and it is the interests of these many people that we as a government have to take care of before we engage in a war that may not yield the results that we want.
And the issue of the bloated executive also came under the spotlight.
Will you and your party support my private member's bill, constitutional amendment, to do away with deputy ministers so that the cost of these redundant members can be redirected to the betterment of our country?
And I have said that it remains a wish and, in the end, an objective that we should have an executive, and I've said it here a number of times, but this time round, it was given rise to by the outcome of our elections, where we needed to set up a government of national unity.
Ulelani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.
A full bench of the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria has unanimously dismissed with costs SAP's Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya's bid to invalidate, alternatively temporarily interdict, National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola's decision to direct Sibiya to stay at home pending an investigation. The impugned decision came after Sibiya was placed at the center of allegations of corruption and misconduct within the South African police by KZN top cop Lieutenant General Ntantam Khonazi. Sibiya, however, argued, among other things, that the decision was in breach of his contract of employment and the discipline regulations. The full bench in a judgment today found, among others, that Sibiya had not satisfied the requirements for an interim interdict and that Sibiya had failed to establish a prima facie right to have their disciplinary proceedings against them halted, suspended or stayed.
With regard to the Sibiya matter, I've learned that the full bench have dismissed the case. So we take note of that, and well, I've maintained that I was right, acting on behalf of South African Police Service and the people of South Africa. So otherwise I reserve my comment. It's not matters that actually one would love to ventilate it in public.
Welcome back. Let's continue with this. The Constitutional Court has heard that sections 36 to 40 of the National Health Act, or NHA, which guide the regulation of the health establishments, has no rational connection between its purpose and the outcomes that can be achieved. The constitutionality of the said sections was placed under the lens of the Apex Court as it examined its purpose against the argument that it is arbitrary and gives broad untrammeled powers to the Minister and the Director General on the activities of private health establishments.
Can this Certificate of Need scheme address the problem identified at paragraph 36, page 449, that the country has relatively few doctors? Can it address the difference between public and private healthcare expenditure mentioned in paragraph 37, page 449? Is the scheme responsive to the problem identified in paragraph 41, page 455, that there is a dearth of healthcare establishments and healthcare personnel in particular areas? No, no, and no.
On principle, on first principles, they're entitled to come to court and say this legislation, on the face of it, is unconstitutional. But we are saying is, in the absence of regulations completing the scheme, they face a higher burden to convince this court that this scheme, just on its face, is unconstitutional.
Over 900 jobs are at risk at Aspen's Pharmacare eye drop manufacturing facility in the Eastern Cape. This after the United States Food and Drug Administration inspectors have found contamination which could be unsafe for the patients. The Chemical, Energy, Paper, Printing, Wood and Allied Workers Union claimed that after this retrenchment process, Aspen would have lost almost half of their workforce this year alone.
Hundreds of jobs to be lost yet again in the Eastern Cape. Seb Howell claims that they are not satisfied with the notice issued by Aspen. They say that more than 200 employees from the eye drop production line had lost their jobs in June already, and that there is a much broader reason for the recent job losses.
They are very silent to tell us that we are, because what we observe from the people who has been laid off, it is all over the place, you understand. It's not a specific area where you can say now this area has been affected. And if you read also the notice is not identifying, the notice is very vague.
The current state of the job market has caused great concern for residents and students as they fear that this will increase crime.
It's devastating. It's very, very sad because what's going to happen to the families? There's being retrenched, the family members that's working at those current companies like Continental, Aspen and Ford. What's going to happen to their families?
According to a Nelson Mandela University economist, Professor Ronnie Ncwadi, students will now be forced to generate their own income to make money and venture into entrepreneurship as job market opportunities continue to decrease.
We've seen a number of these retrenchments because companies are losing markets there in the US, and because of these tariffs, the companies cannot cope because they're losing income and all that. And you're going to see more and more because there is no incentive now to come and put your plant in South Africa, especially if you're having relations with the United States in terms of trade.
Unions will be part of a consolidation meeting with the Bargaining Council on Thursday to determine a way forward for clarity on the notices issued by Aspen. Nandi Paplaki, SABC News, Gqeberha.
To this now, a single jab every 6 months. South Africa may be on the brink of rewriting its HIV story. The South African National AIDS Council is pinning its hope on lenacapavir, an innovative long-acting injection that promises a near-complete protection against HIV. The jab, which only needs to be administered twice a year, is currently awaiting registration with the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority.
There's a call for government to enhance awareness efforts about new prevention options like lenacapavir by targeting older people to ensure that they understand the options and where they can access them. The new HIV prevention option is expected to be introduced in healthcare facilities soon. Women who are over 50 years old from various NGOs are taking proactive steps regarding the new jab prevention option. The South African National AIDS Council is working with other stakeholders to introduce the new drug.
We are now actually making sure that our communities are guiding even the service delivery models. Where do you issue this jab if it's meant for people that are not living with HIV, who might not necessarily want to come to healthcare facilities? So there is a whole demand creation for a jab where we are working with that, and the only way we can get that done is when communities are involved.
The twice-yearly injectable treatment is expected to be rolled out with the first doses anticipated in January 2026.
We're trying our best that it's really spent on that, and the provinces, we've worked quite well with them with the first tranche. And I won't mention how much, but we are going to get, I'm sure we're going to get another money now in October.
SANEX says there's a significant anticipated demand for the jab in the country, particularly among high-risk groups such as young women, sex workers and other vulnerable populations. Mulimo Nemutai, SABC News, Kempton Park.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's shift our focus to this now. The city of Cape Town will deploy more than 700 Metro police officers across the metro. That's happening from tomorrow. In training for over 18 months, the latest graduates will be tasked to work with law enforcement agencies in a bid to bring down crime levels. As part of the Neighborhood Safety Officer Program, 93 wards will be assigned a team to address specific issues related to each area.
The Cape Town Metro has 116 wards. In 23 of these wards, considered high crime areas, Law Enforcement Advancement Project or LEAP officers are deployed daily, working in collaboration with the SABC, particularly in areas where gang-related violence has spiked in recent months. Over 1,000 recruits have undergone rigorous training within the city of Cape Town to graduate as Metro Police officers. The city says deploying trained officers to every ward is much needed.
I really think that it will make a positive difference in communities where we haven't had the LEAP deployment. Obviously, the LEAP deployment continues, so there will still be those large concentration of officers in your gang hotspots, and they will get extra officers now from this deployment. But this also goes to every community in the city.
From Wednesday, each 5-person unit will be introduced to stakeholders in the wards they will serve.
They will then serve these wards on a dedicated basis, day in, day out, getting to know the ward, getting to know the people, getting to know the problems, the recurrent crime issues, the regular offenders, partnering with private security, the neighbourhood watchers, the CPF, working with the ward councillor to make that area safer.
Technology and data-driven policing will be part of the skill set brought to neighbourhoods. Mariska Botha, SABC News, Cape Town.
In news further afield, Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has resigned as deadly youth-led protests continue to rock the Himalayan nation. Protesters have torched the parliament building and stormed political leaders' residences across multiple cities. At least 19 people have died, while hundreds have been injured after clashes with the police. What started off as a protest against the government's ban on social media has turned into an anti-corruption movement.
In the most violent single day of protests in Nepal's recent history, security forces fired into crowds of young demonstrators in Kathmandu. This comes as protesters breached police barricades and stormed Nepal's parliament building and attacked several government officials. Outside the capital, Kathmandu, demonstrators allegedly targeted the private homes of political elites, including Prime Minister Oli's residence and the homes of President Ram Chandra Paudel, along with several former prime ministers. The protests began on a Monday morning when thousands of protesters marched against the government's ban on 26 social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp. It quickly escalated into a nationwide uprising against what the youth are now calling systemic corruption, embodied in their battle cry of "Stop Corruption, Not Social Media." The government has since lifted the social media ban, but protesters say their movement is now targeting the wider issue of political accountability. Following the Prime Minister's and top political leaders' resignation, Nepal is now facing a complete governmental collapse. Meanwhile, Nepal's army chief has addressed the nation, appealing for peace and warning that the military would protect public assets. Ishan Garg, SABC News, New Delhi.
Well done, Bafana. Let's now cross over to the weather desk to see what the weather has in store for us. Stay tuned.
A very good evening to you. Let's take a look at all your weather details. You can expect some partly cloudy skies in Cape Town overnight, stretching southwards along the Garden Route in towards the Eastern Cape. But be on the lookout for some scattered rainfall through the Free State southwards in towards the Eastern Cape this evening and on towards the Eastern Escarpment. Isolated showers remain a possibility for Gauteng overnight and in towards tomorrow. We see partly cloudy skies making a return to Gauteng, the Northwest Province and Limpopo, as well as Mpumalanga. That's on Wednesday afternoon, whilst we see partly cloudy skies and isolated showers in the Free State eastwards towards the KwaZulu-Natal coastline. Sunny conditions returning to Uppington tomorrow, whilst it'll be partly cloudy for the Western Cape and Eastern Cape. That's on Wednesday. And on to some alerts for this evening. Please be on the lookout for damaging winds possible through the Northwest Province and Northern Cape into the Southern Free State, as well as the potential of severe thunderstorms through the southern areas of the Free State in towards the northern borders of KwaZulu-Natal. Ahead towards tomorrow, it'll be hot, dry and windy through the shade of red on the map. Please be on the lookout for the potential of fault fires. Uppington dropping down to 12 degrees overnight. Cape Town the same. Gqeberha down to 16. Durban 19. Johannesburg 13. Warming up tomorrow to 27 degrees. Durban up to 28. Gqeberha up to 22. A mild day in Cape Town at just 21, whilst Uppington is expected to reach 31. Beaufort West and Oudtshoorn also up to 31 on Wednesday afternoon. An outlook towards Thursday, we see sunny conditions with warm temperatures in the southern parts of the Northern Cape, becoming hot as you head northwards through that province, but we have cooler temperatures in the forecast for the west coast of South Africa. Isolated showers in Cape Town on Thursday, continuing along the Garden Route in towards Gqeberha and northwards up the Eastern Cape coastline. Be on the lookout for very hot temperatures in the northern areas of KwaZulu-Natal on Thursday, whilst Johannesburg is expected to be warm and a light cloud cover above us. That's it from me. Have a great evening ahead.
We're going to have to park it here for tonight. Once more, thank you so much for joining us. Let's meet again next time. For now, good night. God bless. Hula.